All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. We're going to go over some of the top news stories of the past week. Of course, probably the most dominant story has been the supposed leaked abortion write up from Samuel Alito. And again, if you guys are not following all of my channels, you're probably missing a lot of content. I know it's hard to keep up with where I'm posting because of all the censorship, but again, a lot of you don't realize that I have multiple channels and I'm posting every day. I'm getting all sorts of comments on other channels. Zach, how come you haven't posted anything for 2 weeks? How come you haven't posted anything for a month? I post every day, you guys. I don't take a break. I don't know how many times I have to say it. I have multiple channels. You need to keep up with the censorship. You know, learn how to use a YouTube search. Type in GematriaEffectNews and sort by newest post. That'll keep you up to date if you're missing anything. But it is really annoying just being censored and having to create new channels. But then it's also annoying that the majority of the people who follow you can't figure it out after this has been going on for over 5 years. But again, if you are subscribed to all the channels and you're tired of getting 3 notifications because there's 3 videos streaming at the same time on 3 different channels, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out a way to help people get on board with the fact that, I'm putting out content. Gematria Effect News 24, I'll start using again, possibly as soon as tonight, but definitely tomorrow. And again, the reason I'm not posting on there is because it has 2 strikes right now. If it gets one more, the whole channel's deleted. But the strike is supposed to expire at some point today. It says expires May 8th, but it's still on there. So maybe it'll be just before midnight. Anyhow, we're going to go through all of the news of the week. If you're a new subscriber here, if you're just tuning in for the first time, again, we talk about Gematria. That's why the channel is called Gematria Effect News. Again, it is the language that all news stories are scripted with every single day. By knowing this knowledge, you can see how the propaganda is contrived. And pretty much all news media is mind control. That's pretty much all it boils down to every day: mind control, fear, political steering, political hurting. And it's pretty much nothing more than that. It's best to just turn it off. But because people won't turn it off and they continue to let it dictate their lives, there has to be people like me trying to wake people up to what's actually being done to them through the news. And again, the abortion thing this week, which we'll get into, that news broke on May 2nd, 5/2. And that's the 122nd day of the year. In the language of Gematria, abortion equals 122. That's why Roe versus Wade was signed off January 22nd, 122. And if you use numerology, abortion equals 50. And on January 22nd, we entered the 50th year of Roe versus Wade's decision. So it's not an accident that in the 50th year of the decision, when abortion equals 122 and 50, that this is happening. It's just ritual. And again, abortion's one of the most divisive topics there is. One of the main purposes of the news is to keep people divided over pretty much everything possible. And as time goes on, they invent more and more things to divide people over. Look at what they're doing with transgenderism. But anyhow, you learn this knowledge and you just see right through every last news story. And, one of them this week is the 3 Americans found dead at the Sandals resort in the Bahamas on May 6th, 5/6. And again, for the people who are veterans here, they recognize right away why we're reading about 3 dead on 5/6. It's a very familiar pattern. It's the same reason that we knew that the Super Bowl would be a 3-point game in Super Bowl 56 and number 3 Odell Beckham would score the first touchdown of the game, which paid 9-1. So again, there's real value to knowing this knowledge. Not only does it free you of the matrix and the deception and, free you of wasting your time on rig sports, but you can even pocket money off of it. And notice 3 Americans on 5/6 on the island of Great Exuma in the Bahamas. In Gematria, Great Exuma equals 56, like the date 5/6. And when you write out 3, it equals 56. Just like when you write out the word light, it equals 56. Just like when you write out the word Abrahamic, it equals 56. And the difference in the ciphers is one is just running the alphabetic order. A is 1 up to Z is 26, and the other is running the alphabetic order in reverse with numerology. There's 4 ciphers, if you're new here: alphabetic order, forwards, backwards with numerology. And if you know all 4 ciphers, You'll see through all of the rituals in the news day after day. But of course, 3 light and Abrahamic are in that list because God makes light in the 3rd verse of the Bible, Genesis 1:3, and there's 3 Abrahamic religions that are based in Genesis and the Torah. And again, this entire code's biblical. So many of the riddles are straight from the Bible, but just follow along. It's May 6th, 5/6 on the island of Great Exuma. You have 3 Americans dead. Now, these stories are meant to impact the mind's eye of the masses. That's what the news is every day. That's what the all seeing eye really is, your mind's eye. And notice how it's Gematria is 119 with the alphabetic order, 56 with numerology. Sandals is 119 when you run it in reverse. It's a Sandals resort. But here's where this gets more interesting. Agatha Christie has the novel The ABC Murders, where killing is ABC 123. And the name of that novel equals 56 and 79, like Society of Jesus. Well, the founder of Sandals recently died at age 79 on January 4th, 2021. From the day he died to these 3 deaths is 487 days later. And how old is the Society of Jesus while this story happens right now? It's 487 years old. And again, if you're new here, this is who's responsible for the code. The Jesuits serve the Catholic Church. That's who the Society of Jesus is, the Jesuits. They serve the Catholic Church. We're on their calendar. The English language is credited to a Catholic monk. Again, we're living in their world, and these are their rituals every single day. And it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that it's the Catholic Church that's trying to mind control everybody. Again, I mean, isn't that what they've always been their purpose? With a bullshit religion, now they control a bullshit government. They control bullshit news every day. This is how they control the world, with bullshit. And for those of you guys who can't figure out that your religion's bullshit, you really should pull your head out of your ass. If you really think God would sacrifice his son to save the world and then have you go to church on Sunday to eat bread and say it's his body and drink grape juice or wine and say it's blood, and you think that's a good thing, your head is up your ass very far. Again, it's demonic, it's evil, and that's why this world is the way it is. And as we'll get to, they sacrifice a lot of people because kind of that's what their whole religion's about. Human sacrifice for the betterment of humanity. But, and by the way, I might take some calls at the end of this. We got a number of stories to go through, but I would love for Christian critics to call in who say I'm evil and the only thing you can do is believe in Jesus. I'd like to take those calls just because I need a good laugh. Again, believing, the word with lie in the middle, is not doing jack shit, and you're calling somebody evil who works their ass off every day for 9 years straight, exposing evil. And had everybody gotten on board, we would have shut down this evil before they pulled off all their latest tricks like the bullshit ass pandemic and everything else. Anyhow, you just got to say, what are the odds, right? What are the odds? Never forget, Anthony Fauci equals 56. The pandemic was declared on his 79th day, being 79 years old. These patterns come together all the time, and they clearly all point back to the Society of Jesus. What else is wild is this guy right here, Butch Stewart, his full name equals 316, like Jesus in Hebrew gematria, John 3:16. So no wonder he died in a crucifixion ritual in the clear Society of Jesus murder ritual, and then perfectly synced up 487 days later while the order is 487 years old. You get this on 5/6. You know, couldn't be any more obvious, and pretty much just like everything they do, it couldn't be any more obvious. Speaking of obvious, the CIA director finally weighed in on Russia-Ukraine, which is another Jesuit operation. Again, we've predicted pretty much everything about Russia-Ukraine dead on so far, from knowing the knowledge, including when it would pop off. But look at the ritual here. The CIA director is born on April 4th, right? April 4th, he comes out and weighs in on May 7th, 5/7. And from his April 4th birthday to May 7th is 33 days later. Well, where do these numbers come together? Again, in Washington, D.C., it's the land of the Jesuits, who also created the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. And where Scottish Rite equals 57, like the date May 7th, 5/7, Masonry equals 33. And of course, the Scottish Rite headquarters in D.C. is called the House of the Temple, where it has 33 columns on the outside, each 33 feet tall. And the top degree of the Scottish Rite's the 33rd degree. And then, of course, the address of the building is 1733, where Mason and Masonry are 33. And modern Freemasonry was created in 1717, 59 years before this nation, where 59 is the 17th prime. And then, of course, you have the first Jesuit university in the nation in D.C., named after the Freemason George Washington, that was established in 1789 while he was 57. Georgetown, 57. So, again, everything about the CIA from day one up to the present, it's a Jesuit Masonic ritual. Keep in mind, this is the federal government, Federal Masonry Secrecy Order. They're all 33. The Jesuits created Masonry in London, divided into 33 neighborhood areas. 33 is prominent in the story of Jesus. Masonry is a Jesuit creation, the Society of Jesus. So, anyhow, for more obvious, the CDC scaring parents because supposedly there's unexplained hepatitis in children right now. And they're showing that there's 100 cases, but they're all over the nation. It started in Alabama. And this has been buzzing for a little bit, but on Friday, May 6th, they took it to a new level. And, a common way to get hepatitis is from dirty needles. So maybe we need to look into how children are being injected. Are they being injected with dirty needles? Or is this even really happening is another question? Or is this just more fear mongering and scare? Because they put a lot of fear porn in the news that's not even real. But what's interesting is the guy at the CDC who's in charge of putting out this information, Dr. Jay Butler. Every time we hear about this, it's coming from Dr. Jay Butler at the CDC. And again, this is just par for the course. Dr. Jay Butler equals 136, like hepatitis equals 136. And April 21st was the first day that they reported on this. And keep in mind, that's the 111th day of the year. Vaccination equals 111. Again, dirty needles is a common way to get hepatitis. But they started reporting on this April 21st. And then he made his big announcement on May 6th, which was the 16th day of reporting on this. And 136 is the 16th triangular number. For all you March Madness fans, again, when University of Maryland, Baltimore County beat number 1 Virginia, being the first 16 seed to beat a 1, that was the 136th time a 16 seed played a 1 seed on March 16th. Again, your college basketball, March Madness, completely rigged. Learn Gematria. You'll see through it every year. All college sports, all pro sports that you can bet on, they're all rigged. The same numbers that they use to rig the news are the same numbers they use to rig the sports. But anyway, again, you can just see it. It's coded propaganda. And then they do this on May 6th, 5-6. It's the Jesuits. And remember, the CDC was created by Jesuits. It's got all the Catholic numbers all over it. They've been doing all the same number propaganda on the pandemic. And by the way, with regards to doing on 5-6, they said the first cases were in Alabama, which equals 56 in Jewish Gematria. So, yeah, again, it's just more fear mongering. And by the way, here's another thing they coded into this. Or hold on, it's the next story. It's the next story. Never mind, it's not this one. But yeah, again, just 5-6, 16th day. And that was one of the top stories all day that day. So at the same time they're doing that, this is also in the news. Children get long COVID too, and it can show up in unexpected ways. And again, just doing this on 5-6 is one of CNN's top stories. Coronavirus and COVID vaccine are 56. They've done about 1 million rituals with 56 in COVID. Gavin Newsom, who equals 56, who's Jesuit educated, the first governor to lock down his state, saying 56% of California will get coronavirus in 8 weeks, which is 56 days. The child who they chose to write this story about, Jack Ford, his name equals 68. Remember, coronavirus was coined in 68. The year many agendas went into place. And if you read the story, it begins on November 9th. November 9th through December 31st is a total of 53 days. The word COVID's 53. Again, the point is, every last story you read in the news, and again, if you doubt it, just take the knowledge and start looking at the news. Every last story is encoded propaganda, likely contrived in some computer supercomputer, but every day just cooked up news stories. And you don't even know if any of these people are real in the faces you see. You might think that person looks real, but don't forget, I learned about this website through CNN one time. They were saying how, or hold on, this person does not, I spelled it wrong. I wrote they. This person does not exist.com. This website, every time you refresh the screen, you get a new face. And what all these faces have in common is they're instantly computer generated images. So none of these are real people. They're all computer generated images. And how could you tell? How could you tell? And that's the point CNN was making years ago when I first saw this. They were showing how easy it is to make up fake news stories and put out fake information on the internet. And it's just like, you know, so again, it's real easy to invent somebody like Jack Ford and tell about his COVID experience on November 9th. And again, it's just, the news is fake, you guys. And don't think I'm some Trump supporter because everything about Donald Trump's a big joke. Donald Trump's another Jesuit pawn. I've been saying the news is fake since way before Trump was on the scene. And again, Trump was, like all things, brought here to create confusion. The truest thing that he ever said is the news is fake, but then realized he didn't say the news was fake when it supported him. And it was the same news that put a spotlight on him that's never left before he became the 58th president, or the winner of the 58th presidential election, after announcing he was running from the 58-story Trump Tower, which we'll talk about in a minute. 58-story Trump Tower. Okay, but also in the news, the CDC is investigating a COVID-19 outbreak on board a Carnival cruise ship. Is it 2 years? Did we time travel? Is this Back to the Future? Remember how it all started with cruise ships with coronavirus? And that's because cruise ships equals 56 and 70, just like coronavirus, just like COVID vaccine. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was all these cruise ship outbreaks. And notice where the COVID-19 outbreak is. They continue to call it COVID-19. And for people who are new here, again, we said 2020 would be the year of a major agenda because it would be 19 years after 9/11 and the 19 hijackers. It ended up being COVID-19 because 19 is a time number. The sun card in tarot is the 19th card. The moon's on a 19-year cycle. Chaos equals 19. The agenda's order out of chaos. But ask yourself, how can they still be calling it COVID-19 when there's been new dominant strains in 2020, 2021? COVID-19 still? Shouldn't it be COVID-20, COVID-21? The reason they keep it on 19 is because it's the chaos number. And again, same things we taught about for years. Order out of chaos, the repetitive rituals. But notice where this cruise ship docked at when they detected the outbreak. The same place the COVID-19 pandemic started, the only city in America that has Gematria 19, Seattle. Bill Gates' city, where his headquarters is right across the street from the world's biggest needle, the Space Needle in King County, when Corona means crown. So, and by the way, in this story, it says it returned to Seattle on May 3rd. And of course, that date can be written 5-3, where COVID's 53, or it can be written 3-5, where Carnival's 35, since it's a Carnival cruise ship. But yeah, just, I mean, from day one up to the present, every last story encoded propaganda. And again, had nobody had a television, if we didn't live in this age of technology with television and radio, nobody would have ever known there was a pandemic. Get rid of the papers and the magazines. No evidence anywhere that there's a pandemic. People dying in nursing homes isn't evidence of a pandemic. And remember, that's all they had when they locked down the nation. Deaths in nursing homes of 80-year-olds. So they locked down the nation. And again, if they had a more intelligent society, they also wouldn't get away with it. People would be like, wait a minute, some people died in a nursing home? That happens all the time. Nursing home where elderly people go to essentially be put to death. Get you on the morphine drip before you know they're out of here. And yeah, it's just, nothing's changed. It's the exact same propaganda encoding day after day, the same patterns, the same rituals day after day. Also, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine getting more restrictions. They're saying it causes thrombosis. Thrombosis has gematria just like vaccine. 132, that number that also goes with Revelation 13:2, which deals with the mark of the beast. and the mark is 666. And of course, the first pandemic simulation for COVID was 666 days before the pandemic was declared. And keep in mind, this comes right after Pfizer says they made an unexpected first quarter profit of, or maybe it's not profit, it might be sales. But whatever it is, profit or sales, 13.2 billion in the first quarter of 2022 for Pfizer for COVID-19 vaccine sales. And again, who knows if these numbers are even real. Vaccines 132 like thrombosis. And again, Revelation 13 too. And that Greek letter variants got their sales way up in recent times. Remember the first strain of COVID from the Black Continent, Africa, announced on Black Friday by the numbers. And that was another 666 ritual because it was 666 days after the World Health Organization issued the first warning for, a public emergency for COVID. That was before the pandemic was officially declared on March 11th. But yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, that anybody would. It's amazing that anybody would take any product from Pfizer. Really, the most sued company in the history of the world for wrongful death and injury are Pfizer and GlaxoSmithKline, who merged right before. Again, those are the two most sued companies in the history of the world before they merged and became one company for wrongful death and injury and for illegal marketing practices, lying about the drugs they sell. So proven liars, proven killers that do it all for a profit. And right now they're gloating about how, wow, we're making even more money than we expected to make off our COVID vaccines. you know, I'll never forget when Anderson Cooper said, "You're not a real man if you haven't been vaccinated." It's coming from a fruitcake. But he said that right before they went to a commercial break where it said, "This segment sponsored by Pfizer." It's just like, man, I mean, you couldn't get away with this unless it was unless it was an idiocracy. Throw out the word democracy because we never had that, but we definitely got an idiocracy, a society of raging morons. So anyway, 13.2 billion for Pfizer, and the reason they don't want the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is because it's the only one that's not mRNA. It's a traditional vaccine, and it's obvious that they want you to get that mRNA vaccine, and we'll see. We've seen a number of doctors come out from Europe to the U.S. saying that in the coming years, there's going to be new problems for people's hearts. In the UK, they're calling it a phantom heart disease is on the rise that could take a toll on a lot of people's lives in the next 5 years, but they don't know what's causing it, but they're just going to put that out there. Again, this stuff that's been in the mainstream headlines. And the only thing that's really changed in the world is the upsurge in jabs. Okay, so California, they're saying they might not make it through the summer. There might not be enough water for California to make it through the summer. And water becoming a huge focus in 2022. And they're also saying there's going to be food shortages this year. I just want you to notice how in the most pure cipher, water and food are 22, right? And we had the big derecho 2 years ago. And at the time, the news said that in 2 years, which is 2022, this will have an impact on the food supply because they said a lot of the corn that's wiped out that's used in the processed foods, it's in a process where it ends up being part of that food supply usually about 2 years down the road. This was the story they laid out 2 years ago. But now water becoming, a huge focus this year. It's been a focus. I remember being in Arizona 20 years ago. I graduated from college in 2005. But the whole time I was in Arizona, the news was constantly focused on how, water's on the decline year after year. How long until it's a real concern. And it sounds like this year they're making it the real concern for the American Southwest, especially Southern California. But notice how water and food are 22, and this is happening. And yeah, shout out to Right the Matrix. He did a video last night showing how the rainfall this year, it's not really much different than other years in California and even years over 100 years ago. He went back and showed, that the rainfall, you can look at it online. The rainfall going back to like the 1880s. And there was one year like in the 1880s where they only got 4 inches of rain all year, which is way below normal. And the counter argument to that would be, well, there's a lot more people now than in 1880. There's way more people living here than in 1880. So that's the one other thing you have to take into account. But no doubt that this is being manipulated. They can control the water through the dams and what they let out. And again, what people need to understand is our government does not care about us. It's amazing how many dummies think government is here to take care of you. I mean, and it's the product of 13 years of mind control from going to slave school. Government is not here to take care of you. Government is here to put a number on you and treat you like you're a slave and a tax commodity and a consumption commodity, and milk you, essentially milk you. Is probably a good way to explain what they do to us. You're here to be milked. And they don't give a shit about you. They don't care about anything about you. They don't care about the qualities of your human existence. They don't care about your health. They don't care anything about you other than how much they can milk out of you. That's it. Period. You have no other purpose to your government other than how much they can milk out of you. Will you go up and become one of their mercenaries and participate in their illegal wars? Will you become one of their street mercenaries and guard the tyrants, and wear a badge and a gun and think you're doing something for justice when all you're here to do is protect evil? Go out and be a glorified tax collector for Big Brother, who already has more than enough, who spends the money they milk from us on all sorts of evil shit like nonstop propaganda and wars and God knows what else, technology we don't need that makes the world worse and worse. But understand, it's not arbitrary that they're doing this in 22. And this phrase up here that they emphasized, critically low levels, just notice how it has the same gematria as Central Valley Project. That's what controls the water supply in California. And it was established in 1933, which means 89 years ago. The word chaos is also 89. The most common chaos number is 19. But what's funny is if you read about the Central Valley Project, it ended up creating 19 dams. So 19 dams were created. It's 89 years old. And again, just so you can see how chaos has the gematria of 19 and 89. 19 in the most pure cipher, 89 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. So again, I know that this is organized chaos. They're probably letting more water out of the system to keep the levels lower. And here's the other thing to think about. JFK gave a speech in 1961 on September 25th about how we can use the technology of the times to ensure there's no more drought. He called for weather control. And we just saw 2 years ago, Public Enemy put out the album "What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down" on the anniversary of that, and because of that album, we were able to predict why the grid was going to go down all over the U.S. on February 14th, 2021, as it did Valentine's Day, because the cover of that album was the Valentine's State. Plus, we knew a few other things, and again, it's funny that it was the weather that took down the grid, and they put out that album on the anniversary of JFK's weather control speech. And if you don't know about it, look it up. September 25th, 1961, JFK spoke about how we can use the technology of the times to make sure there's no more droughts. And keep in mind, it was 1952 that weather warfare was first admitted to in the UK with the Royal Air Force. We just saw it on April 19th in Oklahoma City. That day, they sprayed the shit out of the skies. Richard Quinn was on his megaphone yelling to the small group of there's nobody in Oklahoma City. It's a ghost town, but there was like 4 people at the light, and he was on his megaphone saying, "Look up at the sky." He said, "Watch, in 3 hours, it'll be all cloudy out here." And sure enough, in 3 hours, it was all cloudy out there, and there was even some raindrops that came down. It went from totally blue skies to that gray chemical haze, but it didn't bring down a lot of rain. But had they sprayed it more, it could attract more moisture and bring down more rainfall. So the point is, if our government doesn't want a drought, they know how to make it so there's not a drought. They just got to spray the shit out of the skies, bring the moisture, the same stuff we've had. We did it to Vietnam. Again, our government admitted to it after Vietnam. After Vietnam, our government said, yeah, we had Operation Pot Pie. We did chemistry in the skies. We brought more rainfall. It flooded out the Vietnamese tunnels because they worked those underground tunnels. So Okay. We need rainfall. There's a historic drought. Do what you do. Do what you do. You know why they don't want to do that? Because they like fucking with people. Because they don't care about them. They like manipulating them. If you create a water shortage, what's this going to do? Well, it's going to make water a lot more expensive. More expensive means what? Well, for the people who control the water, it means they make more money off it. Just like right now, the whole thing with oil. It's all contrived. It's doubled the price. Guess what? The fat cats are eating twice as well as they were before. The whole oil price manipulation. All of this stuff feeds in with Agenda 21 and 2030. And that's the other thing I noticed too about this Central Valley project. It was last updated in 92, and that's the same year we agreed to Agenda 21. So, what do you know? What do you know? 19 dams, 89 years later, chaos, order out of chaos, making water a big scary thing in 22. I don't know, man. I just think it's all number manipulation. It's just, for all of you out there that you're probably still not tuned in, but this is why, in a way, I'm not even mad at what they're doing. I mean, as horrible and evil as they are, it's just like I just wish they'd get on with it faster. Starve everybody, make them thirsty, make them perish, bring on full Darwinism, survival of the fittest. I wish they would. I don't see this world changing until all the dead weight is gone. And it mostly is just dead weight in our society out there wearing their slave muzzle, being Pfizer's guinea pig. These people are a joke. And the people who rule over us, I mean, they're part of the reason they're such a joke. They dumbed us down with the chemicals and the slave school, but I don't know. Seems like people still shouldn't be this stupid. So I think it's all a coincidence. Okay, moron. As I show you day after day for 9 years straight, how every single day, every news story is like this. Okay. Sure, it's a coincidence on day 3,000. 3,000 examples, 3,000 times a day. You know what I mean? Pretty much how it's been. So here's what else is buzzing. So, this was buzzing yesterday. They said a school, here, let me read it to you. Ukraine has accused Russia of dropping a bomb on a school in Luhansk region where 90 people were taking shelter. Oh, really? 90 people were taking shelter in a school? Again, just run the alphabetical order in reverse. School is 90. There was 90 people in the school, you guys. I wonder where the number came from. And this was May 7th news. Luhansk, Ukraine, 5-7. Blame it on Russia. The date can also be written 7-5. Just another day. And really, because some people say, well, what about the Russia shit going on every day? Fair point. But right here, again, on 5-7, you're reading about Luhansk, Ukraine, 57, and a school with 90 people in it. You really think that's just a coincidence? Again, if you're new here, every day, every Ukraine story, it's pulled straight from the numerology. Every single day. So today, May 8th, a Russian space chief says that they could wipe out all the NATO countries surrounding Russia with nuclear warfare in 30 minutes. And today's May 8th, right? Wipe out the NATO countries with nuclear weapons, 5-8 news. Notice, nuclear weapon 58, NATO 58. Haven't seen a headline quite like this yet, but you see one on 5-8. On 5-8, the nukes could be used to wipe out the NATO countries surrounding Russia. Again, just par for the course, day after day. And, there's probably even more to it, but that's enough. And with regards to the food thing, this was in the news a few days ago that the Russian military is stealing vast amounts of Ukraine's wheat. And then they're saying this could cause a global dip in markets and throw off commodities markets all across the world. Ukraine's not that significant of a nation. You know what I mean? But they're making it seem like it's the pinnacle of Earth. Like, oh my God, this thing in Ukraine. It's like, okay. Ukraine has a smaller population than Burma. Burma's had a civil war for 50 years. And Burma has become in people's focus more since February 1st, 2021, because of the military overthrowing the government and another Jesuit ritual. But Again, I mean, the stuff going on in Burma where this kind of stuff has been going on the whole time, it hasn't been causing huge fluctuations in markets and, you know, it's just again, Ukraine, it has a tiny percentage of the world's commodities, oil, food, but because of this story, they're making it seem like it's just causing such great shifts, such instability in the world, and it's a huge load of shit that doesn't make any sense. The media was putting it in your face at the very beginning, saying, "Man, despite only Russia and Ukraine accounting for 8% of Western energy consumption, it's caused markets to double all throughout the world." And it's just like, okay, 8% causes double? That doesn't make any sense. 8% fluctuation would make sense. Double doesn't make any sense. And again, nothing they do to us makes any sense, but they like to give us stories that make no sense and then give us consequences from those stories and expect us to just go along with it. And if you question it, then they expect, your peers to call you a conspiracy theorist and act like there's something wrong with you. And sadly, we live in this day and age where intelligence is mistaken for mental illness. I've been dealing with it for all of my life. 9/11, obvious lie. You know what everybody told me? That it seemed like there was something wrong with me, that I might have mental illness, that I could be schizophrenic. Did you know that's what it is to question the government, that it's enslaved you and lied to you from the beginning? If you question it, then you're a schizophrenic. Everybody's a PhD mental health expert when it comes to questioning the news and government. How could you ever question those things? And really, I mean, what is the definition of illness? Let's see how Google puts the definition of illness. Illness, a disease or period of sickness affecting the body or mind. Okay. It's about what I expected, but again, I would say that it's closer to being mentally ill if your mind operates at such a low level that you can't see through the obvious lies and deception of media and government day after day. To me, that seems closer to mental illness. Pointing out obvious lies doesn't mean you're schizophrenic or have mental illness. Recognizing numerical patterns in the news doesn't mean you have mental illness. Doing research and learning about occult knowledge, which is real, that's existed for thousands of years, and realizing that it applies to your current modern day paradigm is not mental illness. It's called intelligence. Most people don't have it. And again, I mean, mind control is really what people are under, because people aren't as dumb as they act when it comes to Big Brother and news. They're just under this mind control where they just bow down to authority. Now, Bill Gates is someone you can hardly talk about. If you point out what's wrong with the old Bill Gates character, your video is almost taken down instantly for medical misinformation or something else. But it's just, I mean, he was on the BBC on May 5th laughing at conspiracy theories about how he wants to track people. And this is wild because just 5 days earlier, we covered this on April 30th on his own website, he published how we need global surveillance to make sure we don't have another pandemic. And he used the movie Outbreak as the example. He said, what's in that movie is pure Hollywood. He said, we need an agency just like that. We need surveillance of all of the world's populace to ensure that there's not another pandemic. And of course, I put out a book about how COVID and September 11th are related events that are about building a surveillance state. But literally 5 days after he publishes that on his own website, he's on the BBC laughing about conspiracy theories about how he wants to track everybody, when they've already been telling us for the last 2 years they're using contact tracing. So again, it's the games that they play. And it's always been this way. It's always been this way. 60 Minutes after 9/11 did a story on the dancing Israelis who were arrested in New Jersey, who were from Israel, that were there with foreknowledge to document the attacks of 9/11. And then 60 Minutes, not long after that, did a story on anti-Semitism and Jewish conspiracy theories about 9/11. So again, it's just this game they play. They put it in the mainstream, and then they're making fun of it if you acknowledged it. You know what I mean? And not to mention his BBC interview was May 5th, the 125th day of the year. Microsoft's 125. He went from computer viruses to human viruses. And of course, it's computers that make the surveillance state possible. And yeah, don't forget, at the beginning of the pandemic, they talked about how the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, how they had financed new technology that MIT developed, which is a way that with a vaccine, with the vaccination, a droplet can go in your body that holds your medical records. So, I mean, just use your imagination a little bit. How far until a droplet can go in that's also, like GPS trackable plus your medical records? I mean, I'd imagine that they can already do that. So, again, it's just and it's why it's so annoying. It's so annoying because then you go and talk to these people and it's like, or you talk to the people in our society and they don't want to acknowledge all of the facts there, and they just want to acknowledge the mockery part. Oh, conspiracy theory. Everyone's just regurgitating that phrase. Oh, you sound like a conspiracy theorist. It's like, okay. 5 days ago, he said he wanted a surveillance state. 5 days later, he's making fun of the idea. So you're the one that's being selective and not looking at the bigger picture. You know what I mean? Okay. For the record, this was on a date with 52 numerology, and if you've read my book, you know about the technology 52 code. Again, 2001: A Space Odyssey came out in 68, the same year coronavirus was coined. 52 years later, 2020, they're using contact tracing, big tech. And I noticed something else. I actually just watched the movie this past week for the first time, Jobs, about Steve Jobs, supposed Apple creator who died at age 56 on Steve Wozniak's 56th day of his age. If you haven't seen that movie, there's a quick scene where he's leaving a voicemail for Bill Gates about how he's going to sue the shit out of him for stealing his software and creating Microsoft Windows. And then it shows how shortly after that, because Bill Gates gets the Microsoft stuff and then gives it to IBM, how Apple, their stock dips and they have all these financial problems. And then Steve Jobs ends up getting kicked out of the company. But it's interesting because remember, Bill Gates, the way he got his foot in the door with the computers is because his mom was a big wig at IBM. And remember, IBM is what HAL is in 2001: A Space Odyssey. I is one letter off from H. A is one letter off from B. L is one letter off from M. HAL is IBM. But Bill Gates' family has the IBM banking connection. He becomes the creator of Microsoft. In the movie, you find out that Microsoft and IBM somehow steal Steve Jobs' software and beat him to the punch, which causes a huge financial problem for Apple. And anyway, I didn't know about this history before I watched the movie, so I had to look into it. And yeah, there was a lawsuit and everything. But what stood out to me is just going back and looking at Steve Jobs' death. Again, we've talked about Steve Jobs' death. There's a ton of stuff about Steve Jobs' death. But one of the things that stands out with Bill Gates, because when I did this work in the past on Steve Jobs' death, I never talked about any connection with Bill Gates. But he did die on the day, leaving 87 days left in the year. And as we know, Bill Gates equals 87, like how he supposedly got his COVID vaccine on the 87th day of his age. And him and Melinda met in 87, and they got divorced 87 days from Bill Gates' birthday. So Steve Jobs dies on the day, leaving 87 days left in the year. And he died 23 days before Bill Gates' 56th birthday. And again, Steve Jobs died at 56 on Wozniak's 56th day of his age. And again, it's Steve Jobs and Wozniak that supposedly created Apple. But dying 23 days before Bill Gates' birthday is interesting because Apple equals 23 and so does N. And of course, that day can be written 10/5 like 105. Computers 105. Lawsuits 105, since Steve Jobs did sue Bill Gates. And of course, there's a lot more to it, but something tells me that wasn't an accident 23 days before Bill Gates' 56th birthday. Again, that's the big number with the Jesuits, and they control big tech. They pretty much control technology. Again, they pretty much built the world around us, from the calendar to the language to the technology. And that's why you could almost make an argument that they deserve to run the world since they've done everything to pretty much run it. But what humanity needs to do is earn their freedom from this evil cabal that's built this world around us. And if we earn it, then we'll deserve our freedom. We are enslaved by this gang because they've worked for it. You know, I mean that's the cold hard truth of the matter. They have worked for it, and it's hard work, right? I mean, it's hard work what they've achieved. That's why I work hard every day. It's just the majority of the world's not with it. And I don't know if the majority of the world's ever going to get with it. People might just be ultimately too dumb. People might be too dumb. Can't tell you how many people are telling me that this character who died this week supposedly is a truther. A guy who's saying if you make enough money, it's okay to cheat on your wife. If your kids are molested, you know, and they're reporting that somebody molested them, they're probably just lying. I mean, this guy put out like all the worst poison there ever was in the world, and some of you guys think he's the truth. And I'm just like, God, even people in my community are dumb as rocks. Of course, he died by the numbers, but talking about Kevin Samuels. And you guys know what Kevin Samuels' greatest career accomplishment was before he became this online poisonous personality, putting out bullshit out there, making the world all a woman's worth is her looks and how much money she makes. But this guy, the job he had the longest in his life before he became this personality online, just and again, how are you a relationship consultant when your longest marriage wasn't even 3 years? But anyway, the guy's longest career accomplishment was, you know, those guys that come up to your door and set a yellow pages on your door? That's that guy's longest career job. He was the guy who delivered the yellow pages to your door. So, again, you guys, a lot of you need to pull your head out of your ass. That man's a clown and the furthest thing from the truth. A blatant liar that dumb. And that's the thing about the word truth. Like some people think lies are truth. There's a lot of people that think the biggest lies that ever were are the only truths. Look into every Jesus believer. Look into every religious person. Look into every flat earther. Again, these people love lies and they think lies are truth. These same morons will then get mad and leave a comment like, your Gematria is bullshit and all lies. Okay, as I prove it day after day. Again, morons make bad arguments. Anyway, also in the news on May 8th, 5/8, guess who's also in the news on Mother's Day? Jill Biden on 5/8. How often does Jill Biden get to be the top story? But on 5/8, she does. See, that's called proof, evidence of the work. Jill Biden, the top story on Mother's Day on 5/8. And man, Ukraine must be a really serious war zone since all the celebrities and politicians keep going over there. And I think today U2's over there. The world's worst band that gets the most airplay. It's part of every psychological operations there ever was. And also another nice touch from CNN on Mother's Day. There's a baby formula shortage. Here's what's making it worse. This is Mother's Day. And by the way, mothers, I mean, I don't even know why moms use baby formula. Is it because they don't have enough time to breastfeed? Sad reality of the world. But notice the Gematria baby formula shortage. You know, the headline. 209, 83, 304, right? And look at the Gematria mother. It's got the 83. 34 is pretty much the same thing as 304 in numerology terms. And 29 is pretty much the same thing as 209. So happy Mother's Day for all the mothers stressed out about the baby formula shortage, but truly maybe a blessing in sight because I think it's a lot healthier to breastfeed than use baby formula, which is cow's milk, which has been processed and modified. I don't know. There might be some women that have like some kind of disorder and can't create breast milk, but I think if you can create breast milk, that's the way you should feed your baby. So, but yeah, just what a nice touch on Mother's Day, right? Again, just another FU from the assholes who run the world. And also in the news, tomorrow will be May 9th, which is Russia's Victory Day. Russia's Victory Day, May 9th. The Kyiv mayor's warning about this day. Keep in mind that day is written 9/5 in the majority of the world, like 95, like the Jesuits created to counter the 95 Theses when they're behind every last inch of the theater of war with Russia and Ukraine. And also interesting is that May 9th will be the 75th day of the conflict. And I'm going to edit it right now. I don't know how I forgot to write it. But like we said earlier, Russia equals 75. It's like the main thing I meant to write here, and somehow I didn't write it. Um, so, well, and think about that. Just the fact that it's going to end up being that way. That Russia's victory day is going to be the 75th day of the conflict. Again, it's because all of this stuff is mapped out and perfectly coordinated, and it's synced with that Catholic Gregorian calendar. Don't forget, Pope equals 56, Francis equals 70. He was supposedly in Russia pleading with Putin on the 56th day of the year, 70 days after his birthday. But anyway, yeah, if you guys missed all the accurate predictions for Russia Ukraine, it's all there. You just got to figure out which channel I posted on, since we're using all these different channels. We said why the conflict was going to pop off, when it was going to pop off. It was about the alignment with Pluto, which is related to Neptune, which is related to Poseidon, which is the trident, which is the coat of arms for Ukraine. All this stuff's connected. It's numerology and astrology. But again, the 75th day of the conflict. New World Order 75, Catholic Church 75, Order Out of Chaos 75, Order 75, Russia 75. So we'll see what they do tomorrow. It'll also be a date with 56 numerology, like Society of Jesus. It'll be the 129th day of the year, which has the connection with 201 and base 8 counting. Again, all of these things are big Jesuit numbers. So, but yeah, how fitting that Victory Day will be the 75th day of the conflict, which is a Russian number. And of course, they got the celebrity mayor over there to go with the actor president. So yeah, I don't have a prediction for what they're going to do tomorrow, because like I've been able to make the predictions about the days that we'll get the nuclear scares, but I don't exactly know what the right number ritual is for tomorrow. But I'm sure that they will do something for Victory Day, going with the Kyiv mayor's warning. My takeaway is just, what are the odds that it falls on the 75th day of the conflict? Okay, also in the news, Israel supposedly suffering from a lot of terrorist attacks, as they're putting it. And most of these terrorist attacks are being committed by teenagers, who are essentially retaliating against, again, the religious divide and, what Israel's done to a lot of the Islamic people over there. But if you read the article, it says dozens have died in the violence in Israel and the West Bank since March 22nd. Old 322, right? Abrahamic religions 322. Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Ancient mystery religions 322. In Israel, they write the date 22/3 like 223. And the latest attack was on May 5th, 5/5. So they say this has been going on since 223. The latest incident on May 5th, 5/5. The synagogue of Satan 223. Again, in the Bible, in Revelation, it says the synagogue of Satan will rule in the end times. And it's in a letter written to the Church of Philadelphia. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse, Philadelphia is 223. And the new Mike Myers Illuminati spoof, they got to throw the 223 out there. He just blurts out the number 223. There's not a whole lot of numbers in the show, but they had to throw out the 223. And again, just the latest incident on 5/5. So Satan 55, the synagogue of Satan 223. And again, since March 22nd, what are the odds that just the same numbers just continue to come up over and over and over? What are the odds? And the latest incident was on Israeli Independence Day. And I don't know how they always figure that in Israel. It's weird how the date fluctuates. To me, it should just be May 14th each year. Their Independence Day was May 14th, 48. So why don't they just celebrate on May 14th each year? The Jews do everything with the moon. And it's 19 cycles. But 19-year cycle, I should say. But notice, Israeli Independence Day is 201, like State of Israel, like the Jesuit order. Remember, David Ben-Gurion died 201 days after the anniversary of Israel's establishment. Don't forget, Order of Illuminati 201. Adam Weishaupt died 201 days after the anniversary of its establishment on the 322nd day of the year, when the man who raised him, the Jesuit priest who raised him, his name was 322. So, again and again, the same old numbers. Genesis 3:22 talks about knowing good and evil. The phrase knowing good and evil 201. In other news, by the Golden Gate Bridge, apparently a plane crashed into the hill there. And it really does just look like more news by the numbers. Hard to say what's real. Photoshop's so easy, but the wreck was on 5-6. The plane crash was on 5-6. Plane crash 56. So I just look at it right away and I think, I mean, and is it, if a plane did crash there, is it a remote plane? Is it a remote pilot? Is it a drone? Did this even happen? Is it a Photoshop? But again, just a plane crash on 5-6 by the Golden Gate Bridge. How often are you reading about this? Not very often, but it just happens to be perfect by the numbers. It's also 21 days before the upcoming birthday of the Golden Gate Bridge. Plain and Jesuit are both 21. Of course, Society of Jesus 56. So might have to look at that more. Could be something with the NBA playoffs. Hard to say. But again, all I'm saying is why's the news? Line up by the numbers just day after day. Saturday Night Live tried to do a skit on abortion, and they went back to the year 1235. Why would they go back to the year 1235? Well, if you watch the skit, which wasn't funny at all, part of it was about they make a joke about, how we can definitely trust the Catholic Church with our children. And as we know, Catholics 35, Holy See's 35, Jesuitism's 35. But from 1235 to 2022 is 787 years later. And that happens to be the 138th prime number. And federal's 138. And they're criticizing the federal government being on the verge of overturning Roe versus Wade. So, I think that's why they went with the year 1235. I was trying to find out if there was anything that was notable that happened out in 1235. But I think this is the reason they did it. I get the 35 point for sure. And then 787 years earlier, I'm thinking that's why. So, and remember, the same people who control your federal government, they're the same ones who control, your entertainment. Same Jesuits, Jewish and Catholic, just like your Supreme Court. Again, they're going to announce a new suicide prevention hotline this year, and it's going to launch on July 16th, the day leaving 168 days left in the year. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 168. So again, true to form, got to do everything by the numbers. That's what it's going to be called, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's not me making up a line or a sentence. That's what it's going to be called. But they got to launch it by the numbers. And again, doesn't it seem interesting that this is happening this year in a year where there's just been all these suspicious suicides just day after day? Been reporting them from the beginning of the year. And again, when celebrities do things, it influences other people's behavior. Population control is a real thing. Just talking about suicide, it might put the idea in more and more people's head. Even though they're acting like they're trying to curb it, maybe they're really trying to influence it. A reverse psychology type of thing. And again, one of the recent suicides in the headlines is a young cheerleader, freshman at a Louisiana college, Southern University. And her name, Arlana, equals suicide. Her name also equals the university and African American. And her name has those feminine numbers. And again, the thing that I thought was so bizarre, I brought this up yesterday at the end of yesterday's live stream. But again, just the tweet that her university put out. Why would they put out a tweet like this, just showing her body? Doesn't that just seem so weird? I mean, it's like, okay, cheerleaders are kind of thought of as sex objects, but God, to just show her body, like not even her face, her little skirt and legs and her stomach. I mean, it's just like, what in the world is going on at Southern University Jaguars? So, RIP to this person, and it's sad to think that they very well might not have committed suicide. I mean, suicides do happen. I remember when I was in college, a girl I knew who was a year younger than me, and her sophomore year, she became a resident advisor. She managed the hallway floor, and she felt real bad for all like an entire year. It took her like a year. I mean, she probably still feels bad about it to this day, but I mean, she was really sad about it for a year. She was the resident advisor for the hallway, so the kind of the supervisor for the floor. And a guy came to her and he was all upset because his girlfriend had broken up with him. And she just kind of laughed and said, "Oh, just cheer up. We're young. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Everything's going to be okay." Well, he went right back to his room and killed himself. And she felt terrible because she was just she thought she'd cheer him up and just say, it's not such a big deal. But, you know, he literally went and like committed suicide like right after. And I was telling her, it's like, because she was blaming herself, and I was telling her it's not her fault. I said, I mean, what you said to him was true, but you just didn't realize like how into that relationship and how devastating it was for him, I guess. So anyway, I mean, people do commit suicide, but never before in my lifetime has there been so much focus on suicide. I've never heard about so many suicides in a single year, and then now also the government's launching a new suicide prevention line, and at the same time, is that being in the news, that young woman, this is in the news on 5/6, May 6th, the 7 suicides on the USS George Washington in the last year. Being in the Navy on these boats is tough because you're truly treated like a sardine, you know. Open up a sardine can, that's essentially what a Navy sailor looks like on one of these boats. And yeah, the military is depressing, especially when you start to wake up. A lot of people start to wake up when they're in the military because it's not what they thought it was going to be. It's not what the marketing was, and the military rep who was in the high school, you know. So, but yeah, just this big focus on suicide. It's also May, so it's Mental Health Awareness Month, which I also didn't know was the thing until recently. These weren't things people talked about in our generation. And again, I always wondered what was going on when I was a kid. I still remember the days when I used to ride my bike all over town, and I just noticed at a certain period, all of a sudden, pharmacies were being built everywhere. And back then we had a local pharmacy in town called High School Pharmacy. It was the local chain, but all of a sudden there was like 4 more pharmacies within I'd say about two 2 miles each direction. The area I used to pretty much patrol with my bike, where most of my friends lived. Just riding over to friends' houses where the game's at, where we're playing the latest street football game or whatever. But I was like, God, why are they building so many pharmacies? This is the '90s. I mean, this is probably like mid '90s. You know? And again, it's because they had a plan for us to get everybody on drugs, pharmaceuticals, antidepressants, anti-anxiety. And again, I think a lot of these drugs even make people sadder than they already were before they got on them. So, I mean, how often are you watching some drug commercial and and when they're giving you the fine print and they're reading it off in that nice happy voice, this drug can cause all these different problems. Like some of them are like suicidal ideation. It's like, God, what? Okay, so you're telling me you'd want to take that drug essentially instead of, and most of these drugs are what, because people won't change their eating habits. So because they won't change their eating habits and they'll continue to eat poorly, they'll get on some drug to curb whatever problem they're creating in their body that creates all these new problems. I mean, this stuff shouldn't even be allowed. Your government doesn't want you to smoke weed, which is actually a medicine that has all sorts of, medicinal benefits, but then they want you to get on these man-made expensive drugs that cause some real serious problems. So, since this headline has come out, at least 8 dead after massive explosion at Havana hotel. They're now saying at least 30 dead, but it started out with 8. And again, I mean, just this kind of stuff. I mean, they said they didn't know. Maybe the story's changed. I haven't even. I saw the latest headline today. I just looked at it. I didn't even read it, but it was up to at least 30 dead. But a big explosion destroys a building from the 19th century. It's been there all these years, and then it's just some kind of mystery. And notice how it begins. The hotel in Saratoga in Havana destroyed this Friday. This was 5/6, right? Society of Jesus. Think about Castro the Jesuit. Has a long history. The building, located steps from the Capitol, was built at the end of the 19th century. Okay, 19 the eighth prime, 19 the chaos number. Um, but yeah, I'm just, it's just like, okay, 5/6. But the name of the hotel has the same gematria as terrorist, and the date can be written 5/6 or 6/5. Again, terrorist 5265, like Oklahoma City. We're not long after the Oklahoma City building bombing anniversary. Remember, TWA 500 was exactly 65 weeks later. Um, the Hotel Saratoga also has the 74 encoded in it, like Havana, Cuba, reminding of the World Trade Centers on the 74th meridian and the 19 hijackers, this 19th century building. But yeah, I mean, this stuff, it's just sick for all sorts of ways. I mean, just needless destruction, killing people, destroying history. I mean, look at that building. That's a cool building. And to just blow it up. I mean, and honestly, I mean, what are they going to build in its place now? You know, what will be built in its place? A bigger building? But yeah, it's not hard to see who's behind it when you know the numbers and you know what 5/6 is. And the 2:23 post time is cute too. So, all right, Piers Morgan, he's back on TV. It's like, who brought this guy back? Nobody likes Piers Morgan, but he's back on TV. And on 5/6, he said the end for the Queen is near. It's the beginning of the end. And again, I have the prediction out there from January that the Queen will bite the dust on May 20th. And again, I'm not saying that's a lock or anything, but the reason I put out the prediction is in case it does happen, we'll be able to explain very clearly why she died on May 20th. Again, Super Bowl 56 was originally scheduled for February 6th before it got moved. That's the day in history her father died at age 56, and she became queen when royal family's 56. We know the Queen City lost in the Super Bowl. Piers Morgan said this on May 6th, which can be written 5/6 or 6/5, United Kingdom 65, royal family's 56. And what's funny about him saying the beginning of the end is it is 14 days before May 20th, where end is 14 and dead is 14. The headline when Kevin Samuel died was YouTuber with 1.4 million subs found dead. 1.4 like 14. And I didn't even look into how Piers Morgan might factor into this. Here, just out of curiosity, I'm going to look real quick since they just brought him back. It's just funny they bring him back and then right away he's saying things like this. Piers Morgan, March 30th birthday. So that means, it's funny. He said it on his 38th day of his age then. Let me double check that, but I'm pretty sure my math is right. March 30th, 2022 to May 6th, 2022. Yeah, so he talked about how the Queen's going to die soon on his 38th day of his age. What do you know? There's always more, like I say. And again, 38's the death number. Death, murder, killing, RIP. They're all 38. So if she does kick the bucket May 20th, it's the 140th day of the year. Queen of England's 140. It's the day leaving 225 days left in the year. Her birth name equals 225. And there's a whole bunch more with it. Again, I put out several videos on this at the end of January, beginning of February. And shortly after that, she caught COVID. And I was talking about how coronavirus is 56, like royal family. And it would make sense if she ends up dying possibly from COVID or complications due to COVID, because corona means crown. And again, it would put the crown on the king's head, Charles. And remember, Charles gave her the virus. He got it right before Super Bowl 56, just days before the Queen City lost. So, and again, old Led Zeppelin's got this song, Stairway to Heaven, which came out 201 days from the Queen's birthday back in 71 when Royal's 71. And Queen or Princess Diana, she died while the Queen was 71 with her 7/1 birthday. Diana had the 7/1 birthday. Royal's 71. Stairway to Heaven, again, came out in 71. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So, speaking of Super Bowl 56 being synced up with the Queen and the royal family, remember they had Billie Jean King come out to do the coin toss. The Dodgers part owner just bought the Chelsea football team on 5/6. And again, Los Angeles just won Super Bowl 56. Odell Beckham Jr. scored the first touchdown. His name equals 56. Born on the day, leaving 56 days left in the year. A football has 2 geometric shapes on it, a 6-sided object and a 5-sided object, or 5 and 6. And David Beckham, who played international football, what we call soccer, who also played in LA. The Super Bowl was exactly 41 weeks after his birthday. Super Bowl and LA are both 41. So I just find it interesting that after Super Bowl 56, you got the Dodgers in LA, part owner, buying the Chelsea football team. And it was a span of 83 days from the Super Bowl, from Super Bowl 56, that this happened, when Los Angeles Rams equals 83, and so does football. So I don't know a whole lot about European football. I don't follow it all at all. There's probably a lot more to this ritual, but I just see the LA connection. The LA Super Bowl 56, the geometric shapes on the football. By the way, Chelsea does equal 53 and 37, just like Los Angeles. That's also interesting. So yeah, I just wanted another 56 thing out there. Have to look into that man's education. He might very well be Jesuit educated. Again, just I touched on this yesterday, but just as a reminder, the reason the casinos never lose is because it's all scammy. It's all rigged, the world of sports. The rich strike horse that won the Derby yesterday, nobody bet on that horse because it wasn't even a horse to bet on all week. It was a horse put in at the last minute. So the 20 horses that were out there all week that people bet on all week, they were all removed. They bring in this new horse at the last second. It comes in and wins the race. And again, it did have the perfect name for the date, 5-7. But again, there's no legitimacy in sports. All of this stuff about drug and performance enhancement testing, it's all bullshit. If you watch this race from the overhead view, watch how this horse comes from dead last at the end like a rocket and just flies through all the horses. I guarantee you this horse was on every type of performance enhancer that they make for horses. And again, the whole thing with Baffert last year, just a sick joke. Last year, we nailed the Baffert horse with 20-1 odds in the 201 ritual, and then that horse died on the 201st day of the Ignatian year, Medina Spirit. But this year, they bring in the unknown, and they did this the other year. The other year that the big long shot won, that horse also got subbed in late. So keep an eye on this new gimmicky trick. But like we were saying, the other breaking story as the race was won was the death of the country singer Mickey Galley, and he got famous on the song Room Full of Roses. They call the Kentucky Derby the Run for the Roses. And if you missed my video on this yesterday, again, Saturn's the 6th planet. 6 years earlier, the trainer for this horse lost all of his horses during Saturnalia. Pretty much as the Pope's birthday celebration was going on, a barn full of horses burned up. I guarantee you that was no accident. It was all part of this planned sick ritual 6 years later. The Saturn cult, Saturn, the 6th planet. The big number of Saturn's 201, like Run for the Roses is 201, the number of the Jesuits and the Illuminati. And by the way, Bavarian is 148, where the Illuminati was established. Bavarian 148, and the name of this horse, it does have the 57 like the date, but it does also has overlap with Illuminati in 3 out of the 4 ciphers. And it's also, I mean, I don't know how many times in history a 21's been put on a horse. The reason it was wearing 21 is because the 20th horse was scratched, and I think even like normally they would put a 20 on a horse filling in for 20, but the reason it was wearing 21 is because they scratched the 20 horse and this became the fill-in horse, so they put 21 on it. But again, that's the Saturn number, and Saturday is named after Saturn, and this trainer's horse barn full of horses burned up on Saturnalia. So I covered all this yesterday, but in case you missed that, just a quick recap. And again, the country singer who's announced dead at the same time at age 86. Remember, Kevin Samuels dead 86 days after his interview with Future, but his full name's 86. And again, he got famous on the song Room Full of Roses, and his breaking news of his death, right as they're telling you who won the Run for the Roses. And the horse that looked like a rocket at the end of the race. If you haven't seen the footage of the end of the race, look it up. Look up the above footage. And I mean, it's one of two things. It's that every jockey in the field, because they're all in on the script and paid millions of dollars to ride those horses, all purposely slowed their horses way down. But man, that horse just comes flying through all the horses at the end. I mean, It's like running twice as fast as every other horse. Look at the footage, you'll see. If you have not seen it, watch and you'll see. And again, I did a video on this yesterday too, but just in case you missed it, Death Row Records, the first female on the label, she's dead on May 6th, 5-6, right after Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre performing Super Bowl 56, and Dre was 56 at the time. And again, from the Super Bowl to her death, span of 83 days. Keep in mind, meanwhile, the LA Dodgers owner is also buying the Chelsea team on this day as part of the ritual. But again, just 83 days, the football murder code. And she's also 38 days from her own birthday. And she's got the 201 in her name. And again, 77 days after Dr. Dre's birthday. And synced up with Snoop Dogg. Again, I covered all this yesterday. It looks like I forgot to... Oh, I did write it down. She also died 17 days after Suge Knight's birthday, and kill equals 17. Suge Knight's got that Jesuit birthday, April 19th. Go figure. Snoop Dogg, murder was the case. The murder 56 days from his birthday. Again, if you missed the video, there's more to it, but just want to make sure people are aware these things are happening. We do not want to support evil. That means you shouldn't be buying these people's music. And also in the world of boxing, a Russian upset Canelo Alvarez, and true to form, by the numbers. The Russian who upset Canelo Alvarez, it was exactly 20 weeks after his birthday. And notice it was his 20th fight, and he became 20-0 exactly 20 weeks after his birthday. And it was exactly 7 months after Putin's birthday. His birthday is October 7th. When you write out 7 as a word, 20 in the most pure cipher. Fight on the 7th. Putin born October 7th, fight May 7th. And you know what? Oh, duh. How did I not write it right here? Russia wins on 7-5, right? The Russian boxer wins on 7-5. So let me add that to it too. This win for the Russian boxer came on 7-5, May 7th, 2022, Russia 75. And then comes right before Victory Day on May 9th, which is going to be the 75th day of the military conflict. So, again, that's what I got to add for right now. Again, as a reminder, if you guys aren't signed up for Free to Find Truth, people are always posting information on here. And a lot of people decoding what's in the news. All sorts of things. Censorship free. Everything you post on here stays here, so you can have like an archived place of blog posts. And again, true to form, it is Free to Find Truth. It's 100% free to use. You can be as anonymous on here or as open on here as you want. It's up to you. But one of the hopes of the website is that, again, people are organizing and networking and building community and getting out in their community and doing activities together, try to wake up more people. And again, it's nice to get out there and organize a network and find out who's in your community. So I wish more people were doing it. I'm thankful for everyone who is. And let's see. We are going to do the Sunday night show in about 2 hours. So maybe I'll save the calls for later because we do got the Sunday night show. And again, make sure you're subscribed to all the channels: Gematria Effect Sports, Gematria Effect News 25, 24, 23, 22. Those are all the current channels. And I'm going to try to keep all of those channels up. So that way, when another channel gets into the 2-strike territory, I'll be able to switch back to another channel that has either 0 strikes or 1 strike. That's how I'm doing it right now. I'm shuffling around between the channels that got the least strikes. Gematria Effect News 24 at some point today. It should drop back down to 1 strike. It has 2 strikes on it. It'll have to wait another month to get back to 0 strikes. But it's annoying when you get your 2nd strike because then you can't post on the channel for 2 weeks. So I see some chats are going on, but I'm not exactly sure what the topic is. So anyway, I think we will keep it there for now. I'll save the calls for later. But yeah, on tonight's show, I really would like all the critics, the Christian community that all make videos about me and post in each other's comments about, yeah, it seems like Zach's doing like like just constantly cheering against my work in the name of Jesus. I would love for you guys to call in and participate in the show tonight because I know you guys watch every last video. You guys are like my most active followers. So I'd like for you guys to call in tonight and just come on and put your face on the screen, show us that you have a pair, and talk about like why you cheer for Jesus and against what we're trying to achieve in this community, which is really working on behalf of all people. I don't really care if you believe in Jesus or what you believe in. Again, as long as you're not part of the cabal, I'm essentially working in your favor. But I'd like for you guys to get on here and explain why you're always slandering me and lying about me and posting false information and why you're all convinced I'm a Jew, which is completely false, and all this other shit. And you all think you're right because you believe in Jesus. And I think what you'll discover if you actually pay attention to what I'm saying is that you guys are all stupid people and you believe in a load of bullshit that does absolutely nothing for the world besides keep people sitting on their hands waiting for a savior, which isn't coming. And I think you guys will realize that you're actually the problem and you're actually part of the evil and you're exactly what the cabal wants. They want people just like you who are dumb and ignorant, who are opposed to people who are actually about doing the right thing. And you think that you're good because you believe in a load of shit. And that's all you guys have that makes you a community, that you all are dumb enough to believe in a total load of shit that makes zero sense, that has zero benefit to anybody. Deluding yourself has no benefit to anybody. Believing in your bullshit religion that makes no sense, that's totally demonic. I'm just going to come out and start saying it. Christianity is a evil religion. It is an evil religion. It has a completely evil premise. It's a belief that God would sacrifice a human being for the betterment of humanity. Doesn't make any sense on any level. It's nothing but a lie. And it is. That's why you have to believe in it. The word with lie right in the middle. I want you guys to call in and explain how your bullshit religion isn't bullshit, which you won't be able to do because it is a load of shit with no evidence behind it. And then I want you to explain how you hate on a person who works their ass off every day and who's been dead on for 9 years straight about the agendas that are coming and who's behind it. And if you can't do that, then realize what you also are. Not only you are losers who believe in bullshit, but you're cowards with no balls who sit behind a computer screen and talk shit about somebody who puts his real name and real face and the real truth about themselves out there. And then you guys are so deluded that you have to make up lies about me and change the facts that aren't facts. Again, I've always said my real name. I've always shown you my real face. I've always been honest about my beliefs. But as time goes on, I become more and more confident that yes, Christianity is a sack of shit religion that is based in nothing but evil. It's why its followers are a bunch of losers who are essentially doing nothing positive for the world. And I realize there are some Christians that aren't such bad people, but still, I mean, what are your beliefs doing for you at the end of the day? And can you admit to yourself that the only reason you believe in that is because you were scared as a child that if you didn't believe in it, you'd go to hell and be in the eternal hellfire? Again, your beliefs and the reason you choose to believe in that are no different than the person who goes and chooses to become a guinea pig for Pfizer and Big Pharma. Those people were scared into becoming part of a criminal conspiracy. They believed that if they didn't go out and become a guinea pig, that, you know, they might die from COVID. You believe and have become part of a criminal organization and conspiracy that puts money in the coffers of, you know, the Catholic Church and whatnot, corrupt ministers. You believe in that because you're trying to escape the eternal hellfire threat. So really, there's no difference at the end of the day. It's all the exact same. It's all fear-based. Religion is fear-based. Government's fear-based. News is fear-based. And the news is it's the same society of Jesus that control them all by exploiting human psychology. And if you can't see it, it's because you're not smart enough. So don't shit on the guy who is smart enough to see through it and who proves it day after day. And look at who your big Christian YouTube leaders are. Faceless cowards who don't put their real name out there, who've never shown their face. And let that resonate with you. And the one who used to, it turned out that he was a homosexual, you know, pretending to be something he's not. You also have retard from Boston who didn't start off as a Christian, but then he realized if he claimed flat earth and Christianity, his channel would finally grow, which it did after everybody else got censored and deleted. So again, Christians, your religion's a fraud. You're part of a fraud. You're part of a conspiracy. Take a look in the mirror. You're the evil one. Keep waiting for nothing. The sun rises every day and then it sets. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Until next time.